Greetings, everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
Oh, no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
you know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What's up, you ducks? It's All in Football Week 1. Chris Meaney and everybody. Happy Labor Day. That's why we're doing this at noon. Off to a cookout with my family after this. So celebration to everybody. Thank you for your service if you've had that or are currently service. I was going to say currently servicing, currently in the service. Sorry to mess that up right out of the gate. It's week 1, though. We're already tired, as Chris mentioned before we got the show. We're not sleeping until no sleep till boom, boom. January, basically for the rest of the season to make sure you guys win your fantasy football leagues. I got represented. This actually says fantasy football GOAT for the fire department.
Oh,
here. No, it's not for
nice.
I just figured it was close enough to represent. But in any case, today is about bowl calls. Today is about the NFL season and getting you ready. Reminder, we are back to normally 10 a.m. on Mondays next week. That'll be a recap show. So that'll be the first of that type. Tomorrow, Tuesdays, are going to be waivers. We are talking early waivers tomorrow with Lauren, and then week 1 rankings on Wednesday with Jeff at 2 p.m. Doubly reminder, I know, get this all the way. Everybody's going to roll their eyes, but just get it all the way. Reminder, all in is the code to get 25% off at FTN. If you go to theathletic.com/BetsTV, all caps, you get a first free month there. And 25% bonus if you go to drafters, where Chris and I actually ended up in the same draft over the weekend. I was drafting, I see means, and I'm like, that's got to be Chris. I mean, how many people are going to put means in type of the thing? I'm kind of more upset for the fact that you didn't text me during the draft, Chris, to be like, hey, we're in the same draft. I was kind of offended a little bit.
You know what? I didn't realize until after you and I chatted yesterday about that. It's I don't know. My phone was dead, and then later on I realized, and also Ben Cunnings, who's also a great guy in the industry I used to work with. I mean, both of us did some fantasy football stuff. Yeah, he was right beside me, and he messaged me on Twitter, DM'd me and said, you kept, sniping me. And I was just like, I didn't even realize. So I'm not paying attention, but I've been doing so many of those drafts, and it's awesome. There's a lot of overlay too.
There's 3 of us in there. That's what we were doing with our weekends. Hopefully you were enjoying your drafts and everything. So some bold calls today. Look, hey, Chris, Rod, Wednesday. You don't have to start your lineups today. You're not doing lineups today. We're not doing start 'em, sit 'em today. You come back on Wednesday. That's the lineup show. But I'll answer your question anyway. You're starting Corey Davis or Brandon Cooks, Chris, even though I'm not. Who said? Don't even put it up.
I'm going Davis. Yeah, I know you're going Cooks, but I'm going Davis.
I'm going, how the hell do you not start both of them at this point?
Yeah.
But
for
see,
sure.
that's why.
Drafting.
That's why we come back on Wednesday once the rankings are done. It's week 1. Monday, you still have 4 days and then another 2.5 days before you have to set your lineup.
People are excited.
People are excited. They're super excited every single year. I've seen a lot of trade questions already. So, Chris, real quick, I do want to, I was going to start with the bowl calls, but since, there you go, Chris Rod, the other Chris, got us into a start sit. Let me ask you these questions. Week 1, there's some worry concern levels. And so this is what it's going to come down to is can you actually bench these guys in week 1? And there's 3 and a team. So I'll do the players first. The first being, and of course, they're going to have the Wednesday show, and I'll probably touch on a lot of these with Jeff as well. But the week 1, Saquon Barkley. We haven't seen him the entire preseason. They keep saying they're, keeping him under wraps, that they expect him for week 1. Not a typical workload from multiple reports from Dan Dugan over at The Athletic all the way up to the ESPN coverage, NFL Network. Everybody's saying the same thing. So if Barkley is out there, is this just you got to start him because of how good he is? Because I can't imagine you got him anything later than a second-round pick. So I can't imagine who you're potentially benching him for, unless the only thing that comes to mind, Chris, is maybe you did an earlier draft and you got Gus Edwards in the 7th. So basically, are you benching Barkley for Gus Edwards type of situation?
Yeah, I would do that. I would bench him for Gus Edwards. I'd probably bench him for Damian Harris. If I was in a full point league, I'd consider maybe a Chase Edmonds or a Kareem Hunt, something like that. Yeah, Darrell Henderson. Those are guys that, like you said, if you drafted a couple months ago, that they're like your fourth back, fifth back. I mean, Henderson could certainly be your fifth running back, and you could be in a decent situation. And I think if you were drafting Saquon, maybe you were thinking about that anyways towards the later part of your draft. I mean, I don't have any Saquon in regular redraft leagues, and best ball, sure. And I'm doing a couple of drafts this week, and I probably won't have any shares of him. I'm a little concerned. I think he is going to be limited. We know his upside. The ceiling is great. The matchup isn't fantastic. So yeah, there's certain guys that we just talked about that, I would consider rostering this week 1 over Saquon.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can go as far as. I'm definitely not going as far as the Cardinals guys. I don't know, the Damian Harris. I'm probably going Barkley. It's the whole argument of what if it's only 10 touches? He can take one. But I mean that offensive line. There, you know what? Yeah. I don't want to go too far into it because it's gonna bleed into one of my bold calls here. So I'll pin that for right now. DeAndre Swift. He's the one I think is more benchable.
Yes.
Assuming he even plays at this point, Chris. Put it this way: DeAndre Swift, straight out, starter or not, is he even in the flex conversation?
No, I don't think so. Again, if it's a full point PPR, it's somebody that I can get behind as a flex, but I don't think he's going to play. I mean, we're just speculating here, but right. This is somebody who hasn't been able to play 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s. He hasn't been, getting in there in preseason action. He's not 100%. So that's another guy too, like Jamal Williams. If there's no Swift, Jamal's a guy that I would probably start over Saquon, Barkley, depending on my situation. Yeah, depending on my situation, sure. As a guy that I know is going to probably touch the ball 15 plus times, catch a couple balls out of the backfield as well. Saquon didn't start off great last season either, and he was healthy. There was a game, I think it was a tough matchup against the Steelers. He hardly did anything in that game. Yeah, if that. I don't even know if it was that. This was a guy who didn't do anything behind a brutal offensive line. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think if you're the Giants, you want to ease back. It's a long season here. You want to ease them back into it. So I think Booker will get a few more touches than people expect.
Why are you going to make me do research at the very beginning of the show? I'm double checking. So, it's 30. Yeah, it was 30-something yards. No, it's 30-something yards on the season. It was 15 for 6 the first week. 6 for 60 receiving.
15 for 6.
Yeah, but see, that's 9 targets, 6 catches, 60 yards in the receiving game. And half-point PPR, still 9 points. Almost got to 10 points. The second game where he got hurt, he only had 4 carries for 28 yards before he left. So that's kind of throw out. But look, that's what I'm saying. 9.6 did nothing. Literally 6 yards, nothing in the running game. But it's the 6 for 60 in the receipt, and that's why I have a tough time benching Barkley, even if it's only 10 touches. Speculative. All right, how about Jamar Chase? Are you dropping him off your starter list? You see what I did there?
Yeah, I did actually. The Davis and Cooks, that question we got, those are two that I'd probably start.
I would definitely start
him.
them over Jamar Chase.
Marquez Callaway, is he going to see Jair Alexander? He could be the one there in that first game with Jameis? That's someone
I have
maybe.
The Green Bay Packers streaming my first week in so many leagues because Jameis can throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but still the turnovers. And I think it might come down to more of it's his receivers versus him in week 1. I mean, Callaway and Traquan are your number 1 and 2.
Exactly. And he's already built that connection with Marquez. He had 2 very solid preseason games to start. And, Devontae Smith against Atlanta, that's one maybe I can consider as well. It's just the first game for Jamar, and it's not like Joe Burrow has one guy to throw to, right? He's got a couple guys in that offense that he can throw the football to. So it's tough. You draft the capital, we're getting into those questions already, the whole start your studs, but so many things have happened already. No, exactly. And some of these things have already happened already, Jake, as you know, injuries and certain things have happened where guys have jumped up, like Marquez Callaway, that I think, I can get behind starting a Callaway over Jamar Chase in week 1.
I can get behind. I just noticed you're wearing the Flex League shirt. I like it.
Representing. Shout out for you.
Yeah, they say that for me. For me, thank you. Week 1 of the fantasy football season is coming right here. All right, last one. So
Marty
I
and
bring,
Paulo hurt in that league, by the way, too.
I know. I'm actually going through the rosters today and giving everybody the fab kickback. But we draft so early. I do want to throw this out. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm such a benevolent commissioner. I'm just saying this is an interesting thought. If you guys, people talk about drafting early versus late all the time. We've had the conversation on this very show last week. If you want to offset it a little bit, we have snake drafts. We didn't even get to do an auction because of time constraints this year, but the snake draft was the first week of August because we kick off the season so you guys can kind of learn from us. And Travis Etienne was in the draft, J.K. Dobbins was in the draft, and others. So what we've done, started about 2 years ago, is I'll go drop those players from your roster and you get the kickback and fab. Now, again, it's like, oh, I lost J.K. Dobbins, I get $28 in fab, whoop-de-doo. It's something. Like it's not a total loss. At least you get a little bit. So you're starting with 128 versus 100 for everybody else. So it kind of does give you a little bit of leg up, and potentially, maybe Gus Edwards is obviously drafted, but maybe if you drafted super early and nobody was drafting Darrell Henderson and you lost Cam Akers, it's just to throw it out there, just an idea for some of those people that want to kind of offset the drafting early a little bit. So anyway, this is the last one. Well, I bring this up, and we're gonna talk probably in depth on Wednesday about this as I scratch my nose. Miami. Everybody's concerned. Tua is going to face Bill Belichick. You like how it's not the defense? He's going to face Bill. Like Bill Belichick's going to actually go out there and stop Tua. So there's concerns about this, but Tua, it's not just him. And so I put all Dolphins because Tua's effect is obviously on Waddle, Gesicki, and, the situation right now is no Will Fuller, so Devontae Parker, but we're kind of curious on how healthy is Devontae Parker. But also the backfield is kind of a cloud. We assume Myles Gaston's going to see the lead about 50%. But, is this, if possible, Chris, are you benching all of your Dolphins in week one?
Yeah, I like Waddle. I think he's going to probably lead the team in targets in that week one game, especially if Parker is not 100%. But not a good spot. I really expect a strong bounce back from New England this season. A lot of players who opted out are back. They made a lot of moves. More moves than anybody in the offseason. I think that this team is going to be very, very competitive. I think they're a playoff squad. And I think that, into Foxborough is going to be a tough place to play for a lot of teams, especially Tua here in week one. So, yeah, I just crossed them all off my list. I do like Gaskin, though, overall. I think he's, in a deeper league. We're talking 12 teams, probably not. But in a 14-team league, in a full-point PPR league, absolutely, I would play him as a flex.
Yeah, I think Gesicki is my concerns for the year, which we're going to get to here in a second. The week one, I feel better about it because there's no Will Fuller, although the Waddle situation still concerns me for that one. What's up, north of the Barty? Marty, yes, thanks for for always being with us. We appreciate you. So let's do some bowl calls, Chris. I did more than you. This isn't fun. Come on. You need to break more. Because I was going to go back and forth and alternate, but I guess it's just going to be a lot of my bowl calls.
I got a couple that are not on the list, and there's two that I actually really, really like from years that I thought I would just kind of piggyback off of. Yeah.
All right, well, then I guess I'll go first. So for everybody out there, the bowl calls, we did them on the Athletic podcast too. Everybody does bowl calls at some point, but I wanted to preface the same thing I prefaced before I gave my bowl calls on that podcast is these are bowl calls, and I'm going to tell you how they could happen. Everybody could sit here, Chris, and come out there and be like, oh, Tua is the MVP. And then everybody's like, nobody cares. Nobody remembers it 3 weeks later unless it happens. And then you're like, see, I told you. Ha ha ha. And they're like, what are the odds of Tua being the MVP? Like 1 to 50,000, something like that. So I'm just saying, these are unlikely, but somewhat plausible. And I'm going to give you reason behind them. And I think you went the same way with yours. But for my first off the jump here is Najee Harris, top 5 running back, not top 10 like a lot of people are, because that feels easy. That's easy. You can say he's an RB1 is easy. And everybody's out there, Pittsburgh Steelers, what about their offensive line? I'll give you 2 names here, Chris. James Robinson and David Montgomery, who are on bottom offensive lines last year. If everybody remembers, where did David Montgomery finish? Top 5.
RB4, yeah.
Yes, top 5. And yes, he faced this easy sled of a schedule that, everybody would love to get the bottom 7 run defense teams in the last 5 games of the season, the Packers twice. But all that being said is, how many times have we seen a Steelers running back under the Tomlin regime? It's not like it's a new regime. Ben Roethlisberger still the quarterback, still 3 good wide receivers here. How many times have we seen a Pittsburgh running back? You go back to Le'Veon Bell. Go back to D'Angelo Williams replacing Le'Veon Bell, finishing his top 5 running backs. And that's why 300 touches, Najee Harris as a talent, he's going to finish inside the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue that. That's another one that I like a lot. You just said all the points, right? You can go back to all the running backs, Tomlin offense. It's just the touches and the volume and the opportunity. And this guy's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield as well. Big Ben led the league in passing attempts last season. He's going to be among the leaders again. But I think, just looking back at last season, he didn't really have a running back to throw to. And he's always had a running back that he could not just check down to, but have involved in the offense. He's going to be the guy that gets all of the touches inside the red zone as well. So that was one that I liked. I'm gonna just continue the trend of a running back that I think could finish RB1 overall. Now that's pretty bold. If I was being conservative, I would say number 2 overall behind CMC. It's Nick Chubb. I'm sick of the hate when it comes to Nick Chubb and people saying, "Oh, but he doesn't catch. He can't be an RB1 if he can't catch the football." It's like, guys, stop it. Like towards the end of the season, I thought that he took over this offense. It was Kareem Hunt who took over when Chubb was hurt, but when Chubb came back, the touches just came down for Kareem Hunt rather. I almost combined them both. Wow, that's great. So
amazing running back.
Can you imagine both of those guys together? It'd be for sure RB1.
Best running back in
the double-digit carries forever. Double-digit carries in the first 12 games for Hunt, and then again when Chubb came back, it was 6, 7, 4, 10 in his final week. He only had 2 catches in 2 playoff games on 2 targets. He was really, and he is a good running back, but I think what Cleveland realized is, man, why are we scaling back Nick Chubb here? And when you look at both of them overall, it was Hunt who only averaged 1 more catch per game. So it's not like he was doing, a guy that was getting 3 or 4 catches every single game and Chubb was just getting 1 or 2. It just wasn't the case. Chubb finished last year as a top 10 running back, missing 4 games, still ends up with over 1,000 yards. I think it's the best offensive line in Cleveland. They want to run the football, especially when they're at home. They want to run the rock. This is what they lean on. This is their run game. I do think he is going to be the guy inside the red zone as well, the goal line back in that offense. So I think he is a guy that totally got disrespected just because of the respect I think a lot of people have for Hunt. I think that's fair. Like Kareem Hunt is a really good running back, but towards the end of the season, Cleveland showed their true hands and they really gave the ball to Nick Chubb. So I think the sky's the limit for him. I love the schedule, love the line. I like Nick Chubb quite a bit.
Do you know where he was in points per game for the season?
I think like 8 or 9.
5th. Do you know
5th
who,
in a half point?
Who had more fantasy points per game between Chubb or Aaron Jones?
Probably Chubb.
No, they equaled. Same. Just you couldn't have gotten that one right. But by the way, so
Thanks.
when Chubb came back in week 10, he was also number 5. He was only behind Montgomery, Taylor, Kamara, and Henry. Overall points and points per game from that point going forward. So he's not that far behind them. I think that's really interesting. As you said, is I took him in a full point PPR over Aaron Jones with both of them on the board. Hindsight being whatever, maybe Aaron Jones has the better floor, but I was going for that upside. I'm going to win that league that it's in. It's a benefit league. Jamie's, it was for St. Jude. It's the benefit league over, and just like
nice.
You get something for first. You get a donation to St. Jude in your name for first. Nobody else gets anything. So it's just, I'm going for first. But actually, last has to, I think, pay twice over or something like that. But whatever it is. That's why I was going for it. All right, so let's stick with the running backs. Do you have another running backs, or is this gonna be the only 3? Is my final one is the running backs, and then we'll move on.
Yeah,
that's positions.
Yeah, that's my only running back.
Okay.
I'd like the call here that you're gonna do, but I may have a little bit of a pushback from it actually.
So wait, before you have that pushback, do you remember the name that I just said was number 3 in that list from week 10 on, or how about the fact that Jonathan Taylor was RB5 for the entire season? The entire season for Jonathan Taylor was RB5. So what my bold prediction is, I'm not even saying 5. I'm just saying Javonte Williams is a top 10 running back because similar to Jonathan Taylor, the Marlon Mack thorn in the side, but of course Marlon Mack got hurt. But Melvin Gordon sat out. Melvin Gordon got run in the final preseason game because they wanted to see what he had looked like with the ones. They wanted to see some of that before the season is. Everything being said is Williams didn't even touch the field in week 3. They've already seen enough. They know. They've moved up in the draft, went aggressively in day 2. Day 2, everybody, running back, where they got him round 2. And they got Javonte Williams. I don't see this as even that bold, Chris. I think that he's top 10. Like, we know rookie running backs finish as RB1s every single year. You can tell me Javonte Williams, ETN is out. Michael Carter, we're going to talk about all these other situations. Like Williams feels like the easy one, like somebody has to do it.
Yeah, I want this to be so dead on. Like I want you to be right here. There's no question. I have a lot of Williams. I believe in the talent. I took the same thing away that you took from week 3 of the preseason and the report out of Denver that they wanted to view him as the feature back. Come on, week 3 preseason game. You wanted to see him as a feature back. You saw him all last year as a feature back, right? When Phillip Lindsay was out. I just don't know if Melvin Gordon's going to go anywhere. I think maybe they were they quote unquote showcasing him saying, listen, Baltimore, if you want Melvin Gordon, he still has it, right? He's still looking fresh. He could be okay for you. I just don't know if he's going to go away. This is the final year of his deal, right? Why wouldn't they run him into the ground a little bit? He still finished last year just shy of 1,000 yards.
Williams.
Sure, but like
that's
1,000 yards in 15 games, 9 touchdowns, at least 8 touchdowns in 5 straight years. The rookie year, remember, he had 0, and then he had the double digits the following year. He's been a decent player inside the red zone. He can catch balls out of the backfield, 32 grabs on 44 targets last year. It was a career low for him, but he's still a guy that catches 30 every year. So I just don't know if he's fully going to go away. But I love Javonte Williams. He's the back I'd rather have in that backfield, shooting for upside. We're trying to be bold here. But I think it may be one of those situations, Jake, where it's kind of like Cam Akers. Cam Akers takes over a little bit. I think more so, you mentioned Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter's path is probably a lot more like Cam Akers, where he takes over midway through the season and has full control of that backfield. But I think Melvin Gordon is going to be a pain in Javonte Williams' side, at least for the first few weeks.
Enough. We got it. You're done. That's fine. Do you want to go next, or you want me to double down with mine since you only gave me like 3 bold predictions?
Go ahead. I got one at the end that's like a double. It's like a 3 and 1. So.
Oh, is it? I'm about to Barkley's taking me off. She's in the background. Like this noon thing is throwing her off. I'm looking at that's why I'm looking down for everybody that's watching the video. She's trying to get on something on the table and I don't know what. And she's aggravating me. Anyway, speaking of not being aggravating, how about that for a transition? I'm trying here. Jalen Hurts is my next bold prediction. Top 5 quarterback, because this is the simple version is he just has to be a mediocre quarterback, because I brought this up in a piece about Jalen Hurts for this year, and I said, Daniel Jones last year, let me give you Daniel Jones numbers before, I think I know them by heart, but I just want to make sure I get these right because of how miserable they are, everybody. Let me just point that out real quick. But 2,943 passing yards, 10 interceptions. I skipped the touchdowns because he threw 11 touchdowns last year. Yes, he only played 14 games, but so 2 more games, so he's going to throw 14 touchdowns. So anyway, here's the point about Hurts is what I made. Jalen Hurts rushing upside of Kyler Murray. We know that, right? 800 yards. Let's not even give him the 11 touchdowns that Kyler Murray had last year. Let's give him 800 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. A reasonable expectation. Or if it's 708, it's in that range. That's the range we're going for. Very reasonable. Could be even higher, but that's the reasonable expectation. You give him those 2,900 yards and 11 passing touchdowns, Jalen Hurts finishes as QB 10 because of that rushing upside. He just throws 3,200 yards and 20 touchdowns, which is mediocre to say the least, and he's now top 5. That's all it takes. Jalen Hurts, top 5 quarterback.
And that's my favorite prediction that you have, and it has nothing to do with the Eagles. It's just what he does on the ground and the upside that he has. Jake, he started 3 games last year, 3, and he averaged 282 passing yards. Steve Young has the most... Chris. Yeah, he can't pass. He can't. That's all I hear. 52% completion rate, whatever. I mean, he had 2 games over 300 passing yards with no offensive line. They had 12 different offensive line combinations in the first 12 games, set an NFL record. The coaching staff, it was a complete just crapshoot. There was so much going on. And also, who is he throwing the football to, right? Who is he throwing the football to? I mean, no offense to Travis Fulgham, your boy, but the guy got cut and he's back now for the practice squad. Greg Ward, there was no one he was throwing the football to. Bring in Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor there. So there's some more guys he can throw the football to. But Steve Young had 4 games, Jake, the most games ever for a quarterback to have 300 passing yards and 60 rushing yards. 4 times he did it. Jalen has done it twice twice, and he has 3 starts. So that's the kind of upside that he has. I love the call. That I'm going to piggyback off of that one and just say Devontae Smith, I think, is a top 20 wide receiver this year, getting drafted as a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 on average over the last month, wide receiver 40 in NFFC leagues. I think he's going to be the number 1 rookie wide receiver this season. I think he's going to finish with about 130 targets, which would put him inside the top 12. Just looking at last season, 130 targets would put him right there with Amari Cooper inside the top 12. I think he's going to get a ton of volume and a ton of opportunity, and more on him in just a little bit. But if there was a quarterback that I think outside the top 12 with you, it's not actually Trey Lance that I thought, I was saying for weeks. I think it's Justin Fields. I think Fields will be that guy that finishes as a for sure top 10 quarterback with upside to be a top 5 quarterback this season. I think he gets in there a lot earlier than Trey Lance, and only because Matt Nagy's job is absolutely on the hot seat. After he sees Andy Dalton week 1 against the Rams, he's going to have to make that switch pretty early.
And everybody's saying week 5, and I'm like, does it really take that long for us to go to Justin Fields? No, yeah, I'm with you on Justin Fields. You know that. I'm so glad you finally came around on this.
I still think Lance is a QB1 too, but Fields, I think there's a clear path to playing time right away.
Yeah. All right. So let's stick in this division real quick. I said no one in the Giants is top 20 at any position. Any. So Daniel Jones doesn't finish as a top 20 quarterback. Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, that seems kind of easy for a lot of people to be like, oh, that's an easy one, top 20. Evan Ingram doesn't even crack the top 20 of tight ends, which he did last year very easily, but he can't stay on the field already. But the biggest one here is obviously Saquon Barkley doesn't finish as a top 20 running back. I'm saying this is bold because this is how it goes wrong, Chris. I have drafted a lot of Saquon Barkley. But I'm saying this call to say this. This is where it goes wrong, is you mentioned what happened in the first game. You mentioned that he couldn't run the ball at all. If anybody's seen the preseason, that offensive line is beyond garbage. They're moving pieces, and still, as of today, they still have yet to solidify their starting offensive lineup on the offensive line. They're bringing in pieces from other teams, making trades for other teams, trying to get depth. And that's going to derail most running backs. Saquon not being 100% to start the season. Maybe he gets top 10 at the back half of the season, but in all intents and purposes, this entire team is going to be miserable, Chris.
You can't argue that, dude. I can't argue that. And I like their offseason.
You can argue Barkley.
No, not really, because like I said before, when we started the show, I don't have a lot of shares of him. I'm concerned. I have concerns. It's not about the talent. Yeah, he's coming off a significant injury, and they're going to ease him back into things. But it's the offensive line, man. This offensive line is pathetic. It's brutal. It's going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue for Daniel Jones. It's going to be an issue for everybody inside this offense. I did like their offseason, Jake. I like their defense quite a bit. I like their secondary, but I feel like they just didn't do enough to this offensive line. I mean, they're bringing in weapons. They're trying to do things for Daniel Jones to, what you and I talked about a couple years ago when they brought in all those weapons for Drew Lock. There's no excuses. Like, Drew Lock, here you go. You're set up, and now you failed, and we had to bring in Teddy Bridgewater. This is a similar situation to me where this is it for Daniel Jones. This is the big year for him. You bring in Kenny Golladay.
It's not a great fit.
It's not a great fit. You're right. It's not a great fit. I can't even argue any of it. There's a lot of running backs that I would rather have more than Saquon. Like, Mixon is a guy. Gibson is a guy. These are guys that I think may have better seasons.
Destroy Barkley. I have to put her on our leash over here. She's all upset now.
That's why she's wound up. I mean, it's just a lot of trash talk with Saquon here.
Trash talk with Saquon Barkley over here. All right, so you go next. You're next. All right. What do you got?
I got one here that Julio Jones will have a better fantasy season than A.J. Brown. And I don't know how bold that is, but over the past 3 or 4 weeks, I feel like Julio has continued to fall down draft boards. Maybe that's because you see already the questionable tag next to Julio Jones when you're drafting him that you'll see probably all year long. But when I compare A.J. Brown to, say, Corey Davis last year, and A.J. Brown had the better season, but 106 targets compared to 92 targets. Now, both guys are big play guys, and both guys were last year. And A.J. Brown has been among the leaders in yards per catch. I mean, he's the upside guy. The difference was the touchdowns between the two last season. I mean, A.J. had 1,000 yards, and Corey Davis had 984, but they were separated by 11 touchdowns to 5 touchdowns. And one thing that we've just complained about over the past couple of years is Julio Jones and the usage inside the red zone. And how it's been non-existent, and sometimes they just shy away from throwing him the football. Why would you ever do that? Now they have Guy and Derrick Henry that they can just hand it off to, but Julio, I think, is going to be on par at least with AJ Brown in terms of targets. I don't see why he can't finish better than AJ Brown. Heck, they could both be top 10 wide receivers. And Ryan Tannehill could be a top 5 quarterback, because since he took over for the Titans in 2019, halfway through the year, there are 2 quarterbacks that have more fantasy points than him. Patrick Mahomes is not one of them. It's Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Ryan Tannehill is great for this offense. He missed a little bit of time. Whatever. Still, if he finishes at the 4th quarterback since 2019, I still think that is pretty respectable. The offense, Arthur Smith is gone. I still think it's going to be a good offense, run the play action. Julio Jones has a better season than AJ Brown. I think the big takeaway is Brown is not a bust. Julio is just a great value and a great target.
I think the bigger thing is this, like, it's not that bold. That's really what it is.
Oh, okay.
Hey, come stronger, Chris. Come stronger. Like, how about
I will
this?
in a little bit.
How about the fact that Cortland Sutton is a wide receiver 1? Is that stronger? Is that stronger than Julio Jones being over AJ Brown?
Pretty strong, yeah.
Really, all I need to see from Cortland Sutton is that he wasn't afraid to cut like he used to. And I will say this, he put all my concerns aside. Yeah, of course, he could get injured again, but I don't think it has anything to do with the previous injury. Cortland Sutton in that game looked like the Cortland Sutton we thought could emerge as a wide receiver 1 last year. So maybe that's the part where it's not that bold, but he's the alpha wide receiver. People forget already, because he missed the season, how good Cortland Sutton can be. And oh, by the way, sure, Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. I actually was thinking that Drew Lock would give him a higher ceiling, but Teddy Bridgewater just did make 3 wide receivers top 25 options altogether, so you whittle it down to 2, hopefully, because the concern was that Tim Patrick was on the field more than Jerry Jeudy was in 2 wideout sets. But all that being said, is one of them, and I think it was DJ Moore, finished the highest inside the top 20. Well, you still have lesser receiving in the backfield and more receiving with Cortland Sutton, and wide receiver 1, wide receiver 10 to 12, somewhere around there.
Okay. All right. Not buying it, but
it's more bold than Julio over AJ Brown.
How about Corey Davis finishing as a wide receiver 1? Is that bold?
That's bold. That's very bold.
That's bold. That's very bold. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Corey Davis is going to be top 10 in targets over Cortland Sutton. He's going to be a wide receiver 1, a low-end wide receiver 1. Guys, this is what we've been waiting for forever. Corey Davis, right? Remember how excited we were to the draft? Corey Davis. Yes, it took a little bit of time. We finally saw it last season. He was really strong as a wide receiver last year, and now he's going to, a team that's going to be throwing the football a little bit more. They could say that they want to run the football behind a strong offensive line all they want, but the defense still has a lot of question marks. And I really love the rapport right out of the gate from Zach Wilson and Corey Davis. My goodness. Like, do you hear Wilson talk about Corey Davis? Find someone in your life that you feel strong about. Yes. Target share, air yards. It's all going to be Corey Davis. Now, I like Elijah Moore a lot, and it looks like he could be a player right away with Jamison Crowder already dealing with an injury. Is it an injury or is it COVID? It's one of the two. I think it's an injury. I think it's a groin thing. Yeah. Okay. So, yikes. So for Corey Davis, I mean, the talent is there. We liked him out of the draft. I think a lot of people were unfair with the TO comparisons and things like that. It took a little bit of time for him, some injuries. There was multiple offensive coordinators the first couple of years with Tennessee and Marcus Mariota. There was a lot of things that we can maybe give him free passes for. But last year I thought was the coming out party. And Zach Wilson, when he said after the second preseason game, when I see Corey Davis lined up one-on-one, it's a battle that I have confidence that he's going to win. And I just hope that he feels confident that I'm going to get him the football. And I truly believe that. And Zach Wilson, I thought, had a really strong preseason. There were some negative reviews about in Jake and camp where, he was taking way too long to throw the football and he wasn't connecting with certain guys. I thought he had a really strong preseason. He can make a lot of great throws. The sky's the limit for Corey Davis. He's been one of the better values this year. Top 10 wide receiver Corey Davis this year.
I would love to see it. And also, for the comments, Brandon Cook's going beast mode, bold prediction. That's not bold on this show. It's not bold because
no.
Brandon Cooks, I don't know how many times have I said Brandon Cooks? Everybody should know the numbers by now. 140 targets, he only catches 50% of them, blah, 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 blah. I said it a billion times. But I would love to see the Corey Davis as well. Those two and Marvin Jones are 3 of my higher owned wide receivers just because of the volumes for all three of them. But yeah, I would love to see Corey Davis finally fulfill that top 10 draft pick cost in the real NFL draft, that being, and then see this pay off, just not for the team that drafted him, unfortunately. This is what sometimes that happens. Do you have another one, or is this the last one? This is the last one, right?
Yeah, my other one was going to be like Zach Wilson offensive, just to piggyback off of that. I think Zach Wilson is your offensive rookie of the year.
Really? You can get some
Yes.
good odds on that right now.
You can get some really good odds on that. The thing with that I like, part is Corey Davis. I like the Elijah Moore thing. I like the offensive line. Now, Trevor Lawrence is going to play from week 1 on. He's got a lot. His weapons are much better. And the schedule is okay. But I think, and he is a much better quarterback. Yes. But I think, I don't think the gap is going to be that strong and that significant between the two. There's a lot of comparisons with Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's unfair. And Tony Romo just came out and said it the other day too. It's completely unfair. But when you watch the tape and you watch Zach Wilson throw, he does have a lot of similar throws. We'll say that, like the sidearm, the one leg, the across his body, which we already saw a couple times in preseason. So I think from day one, and Emory Hunt said this and kind of talked me into it. Your boy, Emory Hunt, would have the best rookie season among quarterbacks this year. It's just the playing time is there. The offensive line is there. And, starting right away and not a lot of question marks. There's some other question marks with other quarterbacks. Rookie
You should
ones,
put some money on that one. We're going to get to those here in a second then, because, again, he's not the favorite. Trevor Lawrence is. And I think Justin Fields is still even in front of him, if not because Justin Fields' numbers for rookie of the year. That's another conversation for another day. Last one for me.
9-1 offensive rookie of the year. 9-1.
Is Fields higher?
I'll find it as you talk this one out.
I thought you were just pulling them all. Hey, yeah, tease me like that. I thought you just had them all at once over there. All right, so
plus 750 for Fields.
Oh yeah, so it is high. So
So he is better.
All right, so how about this one? It's because it's all rookies, right, Chris? What's the rookie of the year line on Kyle Pitts? Out of curiosity. Not that I would bet, because betting against quarterbacks starting from day one is not a sound strategy when you're trying to make money. All that being said, that's where I'm going.
11-1.
11. Ooh, that's not even that.
It's
good.
pretty. It's enticing though.
Nah, I'm not even going to do that. Despite saying what I'm about to say about Kyle Pitts, and I guess Vegas is a little bit on my level over here with this. Is that Kyle Pitts? No, he's not going to take down Travis Kelce, but he's going to take out George Kittle, and he's going to finish with better fantasy season than George Kittle. And here's why, Chris. Yes, this will be a record-making season for tight ends, because it'll be second only to Ditka, because he's not catching double-digit touchdowns. Or is he? Because here's the situation, Chris. Kyle Pitts is stepping into Justin Jefferson's same situation of last year. A high, powerful offense, and obviously more higher-powered than the Vikings if everything's going as it has in years past. Obviously, there's a question of whether it continues to have that success with Mike Davis and Kyle Pitts versus what they have in last year's. But we still know the offense is going to be passing plenty. We know we're going to get 600 pass attempts from Matt Ryan. We know he could potentially be at the top of the league for yards and attempts, and potentially in that mix with touchdowns 30+. So let me ask you this. After Calvin Ridley, who's he going to in the passing game? Exactly. It's Russell. It's Russell Gage, Zacchaeus, Hunt, Hayden Hurst, who's going to be blocking a lot of times at tight end, even when they're running 12, and Kyle Pitts, who they didn't even need to see in the preseason. They gave him a few snaps, one basically series. And where did he line up, Chris, for a few of those plays? Oh, at wide receiver. Kyle Pitts is not a true tight end. Kyle Pitts is going to have a better season than George Kittle. And the reason I bring up George Kittle is because he's got Brandon Ayuk, and he's got Deebo Samuel, and he's got that backfield, and he's got Jeremy Garoppolo for right now. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yes. Again, can't argue it. I like this one quite a bit. I could see him actually finishing.
Your mic popped.
I can see him finishing as I got to figure this mic out. What's going on here? I can see him finishing as tight end too. Darren Waller got a ton of targets last year, but if Edwards and Ruggs can step up, and they don't have to do a whole lot to step up in that offense. But if they can just see a bit of an increase, like a 15%, 20% increase, where maybe Ruggs is getting more than 5 targets per game. Like, he didn't have one game with more than 5 targets. You want to draft this guy as the first wide receiver and not even give him the ball more than 5 times a game. So I think we could see Pitts finishes not only ahead of Kittle, I think he can knock on the door with Waller. And I think maybe next year we're talking about him being a tight end too in drafts.
I mean, Darren Waller, 146 targets. You give me 140 for Kyle Pitts, and boom. I mean, we're talking 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, potentially double-digit touchdowns. All right. So for the last, that was all for your bold predictions, correct? Before I transition over.
That's it.
All right.
Let's do some win totals here.
Yes, let's do win totals, some over-unders on yards and touchdowns and such. And so over-unders, we'll start with team totals. Chris, I'm just going to, you know what? I'm going to give you my overs, and then we'll do my unders, and then we'll do the ones that you like. Because I have more than you do. You put 2. You're no fun. I put 1, 2, 3. 4, 5.
There's 2 that I like. I don't know what direction you're going with them. There's 2 that you have in here that I may like the other way.
I am going to go in one direction. Let's see what I did there. Yeah, I know. You can roll your eyes.
Weak. It's weak.
I know. It was. I really pushed that one. So, first one, I thought this would be higher once Aaron Rodgers was officially announced as returning. How is 10, plus you're getting the push, how is 10, by the way, on DraftKings, how is 10 not an easy bet over, Chris? This feels super easy. This feels easy money easy.
Yeah, I got them for 12 wins. I was taking a look at their schedule for the Packers.
To push this, they would have to go 10-7.
Yeah, and the Division 2, which is they've just owned. Like, say they lose 1 to Minnesota, I think they certainly beat Detroit twice and most likely Chicago twice. And then I'm looking like they got a matchup. San Fran Pitt could be tough. KC, Rams, Baltimore, Cleveland. Like, that's it. Like, if I'm giving them losses on those games, then they're a 12-win team. Like or 11 worst case. So I that was really, really low. And it went down with the whole Rodgers thing. It actually went down to 9.5 at one point. Yeah. So if you jumped on that, good for you, because this is still a very, very strong football team. A very, very strong football team is at least 12-win team.
I think the funny thing is I'm going to hit real quick. I'm going to double down with my teams. I hit this other team at the same time back when they were 8.5, which was just absurd to me. They're still only 9. The Tennessee Titans. So this is pre-Julio Jones, which worked out nice for that pre-Packers, Aaron Rodgers, and pre-Julio Jones. Hit him at 9.5 and 9 or 8.5. Only halves, but get that extra win potential over here. The Titans at 9. The Houston Texans, okay, maybe the Colts, but the Houston Texans and Jaguars, they're not 9. 9 and 8. They're not going to go 9. They're not going to go at least 10-7 just playing in this division with this team that already was this team last year and added Julio Jones.
I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback. I like the Titans. I have some question marks about their secondary. I still don't know how much pressure they're going to generate at the quarterback. Like I think they were second or third worst. This is a bet I'll stay away from. But man, this schedule's it's not great, man. Like, yeah, the division is very soft and they're going to get their wins in there. But, they got San Fran, Pitt, New England, the Saints, the Rams. They got KC. They're going to have Buffalo. They got Seattle and Arizona to start the season. If you respect Miami and you like their squad, they got Miami towards the end of the year too. It's a very, very tough schedule. Yeah.
They only have to go 9-8 for me to push this bet. Well, actually, they have to go 9-8 for me to win the bet from a couple.
It's so weird, the 9-8s. Like, I still can't get used to that, the 9-8.
I know this is part of the reason is like some of these even sound better. So you know what? I'm going to hit all my overs first. We're doing my 4 overs because I have 2
Go
overs.
ahead.
That might give you a hint for where I'm going with the other 2 if those were either of your questions. So the other 2, you mentioned one, Miami 9.5, and then Washington football at 8.5. I hit the overs on both of those as well. I know people think the Cowboys, and for good reason, are back to win this division. But even if not, again, Washington football team going 9-8? Like, I know last year just happened, and that's fresh in everybody's mind, but they did win the division. They won that many games last year, and they just need to win that many games again this year by adding Fitzpatrick and Curtis Samuel and still having one of the best defenses in the league. And then Miami being Miami, I know they have to face Buffalo, and people have Patriots making a comeback this year. So a little bit concerning, but if you believe this really comes down to, if you believe in Miami and you believe that they're starting their future and that Tua is going to take that next step up, then you bet. If you don't, you just hit the under or avoid that one.
Yeah, the Miami one, I'm a little bit on the fence, but the Washington one I love. They just don't have to do a whole lot to win football games this year. Like, they almost beat Tampa last year, and I'm not like, that's not a stretch to say that. They were in that game with getting nothing. at the quarterback position. Their defense is that good. I think it may be the number one fantasy defense this season and the number one defense overall. Right there with the Rams, in my opinion. Like I think they improved the secondary a little bit, but they can get after the quarterback, and the division is absolutely trash. It really is. And it will be probably towards the end of the season. And if you look at their schedule, actually the NFL set this up for us to have this exact same conversation that we've had over the past couple of years and how bad the NFC East is. And they're all playing each other, and the division's going to be up for grabs in the last few weeks of the season. So they'll probably take advantage. I think they start maybe a little slow. The schedule is tough to start, but it's very soft to finish.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right, you know what? We'll just run through mine and then you get your two. I am pounding the unders, and I still have it on Atlanta at 7.5. Who did even? I this one is probably the one that baffles me the most, Chris. I really don't understand where this number is coming from. I just even double checked yesterday, and I was like, yeah, you know what? What did they win last year? 4. I was like, maybe they won like 6. I'm misremembering. No, 4 games last year for Atlanta, and they're gonna win 3.5 more this season. Like, this one feels like such a glaring obvious under for me, and I know it's hard to push for an under at 4.5. That just feels very dicey to do. But if I'm going to bet on any team to hit the under on 4.5, there's 2 teams. It's the Texans and the Lions. I actually feel better about hitting the under on the Lions at 4.5.
You should. I see 2 wins. I see 2 wins for Detroit. And these are the games that they could win. Cincy, Philly, Chicago, Atlanta. And I don't even think they beat Chicago.
No, so, I don't think they're beating Chicago at all. That's like one of those Chicago had an upset game. Like, they shouldn't have lost that type of game situation. Right. Like, you know what that game would be? That'd be like Georgia for anybody with college football. Is like every year Georgia's top 5, and then Georgia like beats the team. Like, started off with Clemson with the win, and then they go out and they lose to like Southern Miss or something like that. You're like, what the heck happened to Georgia today? And then they bounce back, and then they lose one more game, and they finish 10-2, like they always finish 10-2. That kind of feels like if they lost that game. All right, so what are your 2?
All right. Well, I got a couple here. So
I actually don't know which way you're going with both of these. I like it.
Yeah, no, because I only have a couple in there. So I was against you with the Tennessee. I like the Green Bay. Tennessee and Green Bay, those are 2 bets I already have in the FTN bets tracker, and use the odds to get the best possible odds, because you're talking about Atlanta, and DK has the best possible odds for Atlanta at 7.5, the under there. Buffalo's line, most books, is 11.5. You can get plus 200 for 12.5. And I don't see a lot of losses on this Bills schedule. I really don't. I think this team is absolutely legit. They could Steelers, Miami, Washington. Like, Washington is tough, but they'll still beat them. Houston, KC will be a tough one. Tennessee, Miami, Jacksonville, the Jets, Indy, Saints. I don't believe in. I think the Saints are going to have some issues this year. The Pats, Tampa, that's a tough part of their schedule. Carolina, Atlanta, the Jets. Like, this is a 13-win team. And I'm pretty confident saying that. So I like the over 12.5 last year
with 1 fewer game.
They just won 13. Exactly. They just won 13. And I think they had a bit of a tougher schedule last year. Now, again, New England has improved. Miami is a little bit better, and the Jets are better too. But I still think that they're going to own that division. I don't see a lot of holes in this roster at all. Cleveland, same sort of deal. It's a very tough division. I think the Steelers take a step back. Cincy is still very winnable, and the Ravens are going through something significant with a lot of injuries. Cleveland is right there, in my opinion, with the Bills as one of the most complete rosters in the NFL. Defense and offense. We already talked about the offensive line that they have. If Odell Beckham Jr. can just stay healthy and give them a little bit of give them something, it just adds another dynamic to this offense. I loved their draft. I thought they had the best draft this past year. So over 10.5 on them. And then the final one I had here was, oh yeah, we already did it. Detroit. Oh, Dallas under. It's so overrated. Every year we do this with the Cowboys. 9.5, 10 wins. Like, no, there's so much that has to go right with the Cowboys. We love Dak. We love all their weapons. And I was going to say, like, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a bust because people are drafting him as a top 10 wide receiver. They're drafting him for just his pure, what he has to do. He has to be perfect to finish as a top 10 wide receiver. There's so many other weapons on this team. They're already coming into the season with a lot of question marks, one on their offensive line with Martin. And Dak hasn't had a rep yet. Not one rep. And he's going to get tossed in against the Super Bowl champs in Tampa Bay. Dallas is just completely overrated. This is Washington's division, and they probably get it by winning 9. Dallas is not getting 10.
Wow. I don't know if I could touch that bet. I'm with you on most of the calls. I just can see the Giants are abysmal. The Eagles are super questionable. Like this almost feels like 4 wins in this division alone. Walking into. So yeah, I could definitely see it going wrong, but put it this way, you can't parlay on it. Like I haven't found a site yet. I don't know about you north of the border. You can't parlay team totals together, right?
No.
Okay.
No. Unfortunately,
no. No, because I was gonna say I would definitely not parlay them into anybody. Like that feels like the most vulnerable one of all of them. All right, so let's do some season totals for players. Do you have any quarterbacks? I don't see you having any quarterbacks on here. So no,
I'll get a quarterback for you on the fly here.
No. This is fine. We're short on time anyway. We only got like 8 minutes left. So I'm gonna give you. I picked 4 overs for touchdown totals. So I'm gonna go in reverse order because the last one is just I don't get it again. But I got Fitzpatrick for over for 23, and I know that's around his career high. But with Washington in the extra game, Fitzpatrick unless hurt, who are they turning to? He's finally playing a full season. I say finally, but for a long time, he's the answer for the entire season. Tua for 24.5. You know I'm a Tua guy. I think Tua is going to break out this year, what a lot of people expected Tua to be. 87 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in college, everybody. I think that Tua is going to be that guy. Burrow for 26.5. If I have him leading the league in pass attempts, he passed a ton of yards and a ton of attempts last year. The touchdowns were actually under, like he should regress up. So, and this is the most egregious one, Chris, in my opinion, because let me chop off 13 touchdowns so I lose this bet. If I take Rodgers throwing for 13 fewer touchdowns, I lose this bet. That's my gap here in an extra game, because at 35.5 for Rodgers, I know it's a high number. He just threw for 48. Why is he not throwing for 35.5?
And the same thing, the one that I like that wasn't on the doc here is Tom Brady at 33.5. Is another guy who threw 40 last year. You get the extra game. Yeah, you could say that there's going to be some regression when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. He was super efficient inside the red zone, but he's just been an efficient quarterback for his whole career, especially over the last few years, and definitely inside the red zone. So you add a guy in Randall Cobb there as well. Yeah, I agree with the Aaron Rodgers, but for Tom Brady at 33.5 and even at 4,000 yards, well, he's got 4,600 yards, but he threw for 4,000 last year. And with Brady, and I know we're running out of time, the one thing I'll say is just another year with Bruce Arians. It took him some time. Remember the struggles that he had, Jake, towards the start of the season? And now Gronk, we talked about Gronk last episode. Antonio Brown. Yeah, it wasn't going to work. Oh my goodness, this guy just keeps throwing picks. But now another year inside this offense and getting comfortable. Only had 1 year to throw to Godwin and Evans. Now into year 2, I think Brady's in for another 4 touchdown season.
All right, so where do you want to do yours? We'll do yours to make sure we get yours.
I could rapid fire through some of these. Yeah, I mean, Devontae Smith is somebody I already talked about. 749. A lot of books have him at 900. He only needs to average like 44 yards.
They said if Devontae Smith is a top 10 wide receiver, how is he not rookie of the year?
Because typically it's a good call out. It's a good call out. Typically it goes to some of these, quarterbacks really, but
step off a quarterback.
It's tough for, I mean, we just had Justin Jefferson. What did he do? 1,400 yards, never been done by a rookie wide receiver. It didn't go to him. Yeah, it wasn't him.
That's why I bring it up. But yeah, Devontae Smith, I like that. 749.
Smith over 749. He only needs to do 44. Saquon under 1,150. Oh my goodness.
That's rushing,
under in a hurry. Rushing, yes. Logan Thomas over 4 points.
Wait, you know what? I keep saying Barkley, but under 1,150. Like, he could have 1,600 total yards and still hit the under on the
900 receiving or something silly like that.
Yeah.
He could do a lot of damage through the air, but the under, I think this goes under. I don't know if he gets to 1,000. Like, it could be like 980 or something like that. Logan Thomas over 4.5 touchdowns. You mentioned Fitz, right? Another piece of the offense there. This is nothing for Logan Thomas. He may be the number one option inside the red zone for Fitzpatrick. And then Jamal Williams over 525 rushing yards, mixed in with DeAndre Swift under 900.5. So already behind the 8 ball here a little bit with Swift. I know how much you like Jamal Williams, and they brought him in for a reason to give him some touches. He's a good back. I think he's going to be involved in the offense.
Yeah, I could definitely see that over hit, by the way. Just as a timeshare piece, I know it's not the same offense, but Kareem Hunt last year ran for 840. for 840. Like, and again, so, and I bring that up to say the reason he comes to mind immediately is because Nick Chubb missed some time. And that's really what it comes down to is like, and that blows away 525. And that's all I'm saying is, again, better offense, better situation, better running back in Kareem Hunt. But again, it's the similar opportunity just to hit 525. I like that. I'll rapid fire some of mine for you. Over Corey Davis for your call earlier there. Over Corey Davis, 805. 805
Lock.
for receiving your, lock that one in. And that I'm surprised it's still that low with the connection they've seen so far this season. Under Kenny Galladay, 1,000.5.
Oh, yeah.
Not healthy, not even out there. 1,000 is a lot for Kenny Galladay to begin with, so I'm smashing that under. Let's go. Let's stick with the receivers real quickly. Do I have any more receivers? No, I have Gesicki. Gesicki 685 under.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Yes.
Because I have this. Do you know what Gesicki's receiving yards were last year?
Oh my goodness. 510.
Nope. 703. He barely broke this number last year, being the number one option for most of the season, running tons of routes out of the slot. So he broke it by what, for the quick math there, 28 yards, and they were doing it this year. Yeah. So no, under on Gesicki. Derrick Henry. This is a fun one. Over 1555.5 rushing. I love all the fives to begin with, but I know, look, if Derrick Henry gets hurt, he hits the under. If he plays the full season, he obliterates this over. He could be easily one of the ones that runs for 2,000 2 years in a row.
Totally. Absolutely. Even with fewer touches, even if they decide to give him fewer touches, it just could be more offense. Like, what are you going to do? Bring the safety down and leave the two wideouts? Leave Julio? Like, no, the offense is going to roll. Yeah.
So I'll give you one more over and then two unders, which might surprise. Don't look at the sheet. Don't go look back because I was gonna say I'm not sure how you think that I was going with those two. But Najee Harris 990.5. That's I've been hitting that over. Like I've actually hit that over on multiple sites because
that's been in the bet tracker. That's been in the bet tracker at FTN Bets since the day after the NFL draft.
How is it not moved up at all? I don't get it. You have 1,000 rushing yards for a guy who's touching the ball 25 times a game.
Yeah.
So here's the two unders. I don't like James Robinson at 900, mostly because Urban Meyer scares the living bejesus out of me. And Carlos Hyde, and even if Carlos Hyde gets hurt, he's going to turn to somebody else. He tried Travis Etienne, drafted him in the first round. And here's the thing, too. This offense is going to have to pass. They're not going to be able to lean on James Robinson. And I like James Robinson. That 900 number feels like an under. And here's the interesting one to get out of here, Chris. Kyler Murray under.
Oh my goodness.
680.5.
Oh, so, under
680.5. So here's why. Kyler Murray's rookie season. I know it's his rookie season, but Kyler Murray's rookie season was 544. Kyler Murray said he doesn't like running that much. Kyler Murray, this isn't Cam Newton where the team's like, we don't want you to run as much. This is Kyler Murray saying he doesn't like running that much. And you bring in a litany of weapons between what you drafted and more, and AJ Green to try and give him more passing options. I just think he's going to sit in the pocket and take more shots in the passing game and pull his own wheels in and kind of check into the 600-ish mark, which is still great, but I'm going under. This might be one of the bold calls as well.
Yeah, it's pretty bold. I thought you were going to go over. Wow, you really threw me for a loop there. This is the first bet that I put in the FTN bet tracker. I got it at 675.5. 40 yards per game is all he needed. All he needs. He averaged 51. I get it. He'll maybe run less, and he has improved. I think the past couple of years is not taking as many shots, and he took that shoulder shot last year, and then he really didn't run at all. So maybe he doesn't run around as much. I think it's in his nature to have at least 40 rushing yards per game. I like the over here.
Yeah, that's the bold call to get out of here on. You like that? It's a bold over under call. Mix the entire show together, bring things full circle, as you like to say.
It brings a sick feeling in my stomach with that Kyler. I don't like the finish like that, dude. 800 yards for sure.
Well, hopefully it'll give you a good feeling to start the season for week one. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Lauren to talk early waivers, some guys that might be hanging out there that could give you some help early in the season if you already need it. And again, Wednesday at 2 p.m. at Chris Meaney. Make sure you're following him and all his work. And Mean Streets, his own show on this network. And that network for FTN All In gets you the discount for everything over at FTN. Everything. And then theathletic.com/BetsTV, all caps, first free month. So you can get if you're still drafting, you can get the ranks and projections. Time's not out. You can still you get the entire month of September for free. We'll be back tomorrow. Chris won't. Chris will be back next Monday for our first recap show of the season. Football will be in the books. See you guys later.